So some of the chapter contents are sources of theory, hypotheses, searching the literature, developing the hypotheses, and validity concerns. These are some of the contents of chapter 3 that we will discuss. Sources of theory. Again, we're going to talk about theory, hypotheses, concepts, constructs, variables, reliability, and validity. But we'll discuss those later, okay? So the first thing we want to discuss is theory. What exactly is a theory? You may probably wonder, why is it that in some of the lectures, I will be repeating some of the same topics, same subjects. Why am I doing that? Because I want you to keep that fresh in your memory. Because if you're going to write a thesis, you're going to write a proposal, your research has to be based on a theory. And a theory is no more than an idea. It helps to explain how and why a phenomenon operates as it does. A theory is nothing else but an explanation. Again, it's an explanation of how and why something operates. A good theory will also suggest new hypotheses that are capable of being tested in a research. Here's an example of a student's mixed method thesis. This is from the spring quarter, okay? The title of her thesis was "The Impact of Artificial Intelligence Application on the Accounting Profession." The impact of artificial intelligence application on the accounting profession. That was her title. Her research was based on the theory of technology acceptance model, okay? So her study analyzed opportunities and challenges of AI in the practice of accounting works. Now, the primary focus of her research was to evaluate the impact of AI technology on the efficiency of accounting functions and decision-making process. She stated that one of the underlying reasons for digitizing accounting operations and projections of economic data was the continuously growing financial data and advancements in artificial intelligence technologies. So her theoretical framework for her research was guided by using the theory of technology acceptance model, which was proposed by researchers Davis and Bagazi back in 1989 and 1993. So you may ask, how would I find out about a theory of a research? When you start reading articles, research articles, those articles will definitely have the theory embedded, okay? Again, every research is based on a theory. Another example of a former student's capstone thesis was how to lessen the impact of inflation on business operations in the supply chain. That was her title. And she actually had two theories. It was a qualitative research. The theoretical foundation of her study was based on the development and renewal of supply chain systems to combat the impacts of an inflationary economic environment. The theory used in her study emphasized that with proper understanding of the current economic situation and suitable updates, businesses can create innovative supply chain management models that are resilient to the impact of an inflationary economy. So to support her argument, she applied what is called the operations and supply chain management theory and the advanced planning system theory. Those were the theories that she examined or she used as a basis or foundation for her research. Hypotheses. Hypotheses is or are predictions or a tentative answer to a research question. Now, if you are investigating the influence of the number of bystanders on the speed of interventions in emergencies, now you might want to hypothesize that as the number of bystanders increases, the speed of intervention will decrease. So the formulation of the hypothesis logically follows the statement of the research question, because one cannot state a hypothesis without having a clear question. So in other words, you have to have a research question, and then your hypothesis or hypotheses will follow it. So the hypothesis is to be tested in the research. Now, hypotheses also, but less frequently, come from reasoning based on the observation of events. Okay? More than one hypothesis may be needed, depending on the complexity of the research question. Okay? Some research may have just one hypothesis, where they have a null and an alternative, but we'll discuss what they are later in the video, in the presentation. So regardless of the source of the hypothesis, it must meet one criterion. A hypothesis must be stated so that it is capable of being either refuted or confirmed. Okay? And then, of course, you have the hypothesis testing, which is basically a process. It's a process of testing a predicted relationship or hypothesis by making observations and then comparing the observed facts with the hypothesis or predicted relationship. So hypotheses rely on the logic of confirmation. Okay? Remember, I stated earlier that there are two hypotheses. I mentioned the null and the alternative. Okay? So in testing of significance, there are those two kinds of hypothesis. You have your null hypothesis, which is represented by the H and the O. And then you have the alternative hypothesis, which is represented by the H and the 1. Now, some people use HA instead of H1. So it really doesn't matter, but of course we know as researchers that 1 would be the alternative. So the null and alternative, well, the null hypothesis is used for testing, of course. It is that statement that no difference exists between the perimeter and the sample statistics being compared to it. The alternative is the opposite of the null hypothesis. The null will state that there are no changes or there is no change, whereas the alternative state there is or has been a change. So if you reject the null hypothesis, then you're accepting the alternative. And I'll give you examples of some of the null and alternative hypotheses in the general term and in also accounting. Now, to consider specifically the role of the hypothesis in determining the direction of the research, suppose we use these two examples here that you see on the PowerPoint. The hypothesis specifies who shall be studied. You have husband and wives agree on their prospective roles in vehicle purchase decisions. Okay, so the hypothesis again specifies who shall be studied. And who are we going to study? I mean, in this study, it will be the married couples. In which context they shall be studied, which is their vehicle purchase decision making, and what shall be studied is their individual perception of their roles. Now, this hypothesis suggests that the best research design is what? Is communication-based study. And when I say communication-based study, is either a survey or an interview, because you're communicating with the participant or participants. So we have at this time no other practical means to ascertain perceptions of people except to ask them, in one way or another, like I said, either by a survey or just an interview, okay? So we are interested only in the roles that are assumed in this example here in the vehicle purchase decision. The study should not, therefore, seek information about roles husband and wives might assume in other purchase decisions, such as electronics or furniture or movies. So in this example, the study will be focusing on the husband and wife and their decision on purchasing a vehicle. Okay, you remember the student's thesis that we discussed earlier? It was the theory of the impact of artificial intelligence on the accounting profession, and she used the theory of technology acceptance model. And this research that she conducted was actually a mixed method research. And remember, I told you last week and the week before, be careful. If you're going to complete capstone, you want to be extremely careful about conducting a mixed method research. Okay, and the reason for that is because it's very time consuming, especially if you're working full time. Mixed method is very time consuming. Okay, she had several questions. I think she may have had at least 5 or 7 research questions, but she had 2 hypotheses. Okay, she had 2. And this one right here that you see, the null hypothesis was there is no significant link between the application of AI and automation in the accounting profession and the efficiency and effectiveness of accounting functions. And the alternative was there is a significant link between the application of AI and automation in the accounting profession and the efficiency and effectiveness of accounting functions. That's one of them that she had in her research. The second hypothesis was Implementing robotic process automation in the accounting industry has no significant impact on the decision making. And of course, the alternative is the opposite. Whereas implementing robotic process automation in the accounting industry improves the decision making process. That was her second hypothesis. Here's another example of a research where they actually used a hypothesis. Remember, I said that you would always have a question, and then you will have your hypothesis or hypotheses. In this example, the research question was, what is the relationship between return on equity and annual revenue and the CEO's incentive compensation measured by salary, stocks, bonuses, and option awards, while controlling for size of firm, age of CEO, and CEO tenure within the US health insurance industry. So you can see here that this student's research targeted the US health insurance agency or industry and CEO's compensation, okay? And this research had one hypothesis. So the no was a significant relationship does not exist between return on equity and annual revenue and the CEO incentive compensation measured by salary, so forth and so on. Whereas the alternative was a significant relationship exists between return on equity and annual revenues and so forth and so on. Okay, so in this particular research, it was a general business problem where the boards of directors are not always confident that their CEO is motivated by their compensation packages to act in the best interest of the stakeholders. Okay. And it stated that another business problem was that the board of directors have limited knowledge of the relationship between the CEO's incentive compensation and the return on equity and annual revenues within the US health insurance industry. Concepts. What are concepts in research? Concepts are abstract ideas, not directly observable or measurable, which must first be operationalized in some way to provide measurable indicators. In other words, concepts are created when we classify and categorize events, object, conditions, situations, or behaviors, identifying common characterized beyond any single observation. Concepts are acquired through personal experience or even the experience of others. Concepts are words as labels to designate them. Now, these words are derived from our own experiences. Concepts are used to understand and communicate information. Now, the success of research hinges on two or more things. One is how clearly we conceptualize, and two, how well others understand the concepts we use. Now, we design hypotheses using concepts, and we devise measurement scales using concepts, by which to test these hypotheses. We gather and we analyze data using measurement concepts. Constructs. When research requires us to work with abstract concepts, we define one or more constructs. Okay? Constructs are indirect measures of concepts, usually generated in the form of multi-item questions. The sum of a set of valid and reliable responses to the construct provides a measure of the concept. Now, we build constructs by combining simpler, more concrete concepts, especially when the ideas or images we intend to convey is not or are not subject to direct observation. Variables. Variables, when you have variables are found in quantitative research. Quantitative research. A variable is a symbol of an event, an act, characteristic, trait, or attribute that can be measured and to which we assign categorical values. A characteristic or phenomena that can vary across or within organisms, situations or environments. For example, political parties. Yeah, you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Conservative, so forth and so on. Something that does not vary, okay? Political party would be like an independent, okay? Independent variable. Now, the different types of variables are what you see here, okay? Reliability. Research must have reliability. What is reliability? Reliability is concerned with the degree to which a measurement is free of random or unstable error, okay? It is the consistency or stability of the scores of your measurement instrument. If a question or a scale repeatedly measures or object correctly over time and in different conditions, it is reliable. Reliability questions are stable, okay? Right, reliable research ensures that if the same study, the same research were conducted multiple times under similar conditions, the results should be consistent. If it's not consistent, it's unreliable, okay? There must be some consistency in the research if it's the same study that is conducted multiple times. Now, this consistency allows for confidence in the findings and conclusions drawn from a research. So you want to make sure that your research is reliable. Validity. Validity is the extent to which your measurement procedure is measuring what you think it is measuring and not something else, and whether you have used and interpreted the scores correctly. So even when an experiment is the ideal research design, you feel that this is the best, or you're using the best method, you're confident you have to make sure that it's not without problems, okay? There's always a question about whether the results are true. This is where validity comes in. Validity measures the degree to which your research or our research achieves what it is set out to do. If you're going to have validity, you must have reliability. But reliability is not enough to ensure validity. Okay? Although there are several different types of validity, we're going to just discuss two: the internal and external validity. The internal validity is the degree to which you can correctly conclude that the relationship between an independent variable and a dependent variable is causal. External validity is the degree to which the study results can be generalized to and across other people, setting, treatments, outcomes, and times. I'm going to show you some examples of validity, internal and external validity. Okay. Let's consider a hypothetical accounting research study, okay? Here's a research study that aims to investigate the effect of a new accounting software system. The new accounting software system is the independent variable, okay? We want to investigate the effect of a new accounting software system, the independent variable, on the accuracy of financial reports, which is the dependent variable in a specific company, okay? The internal validity that you should be concerned about would be history threat, maturation or maturation threat, and testing threat, okay? So the internal validity concerns whether the study's design actually establishes a cause and effect relationship between the independent and dependent variables. The history threat that you should be concerned about is the accounting department. Okay, the accounting department started additional training programs during the study, which could affect the accuracy of financial reports. How would you solve that that history threat? One solution is the researcher should have a control group that does not receive the new software and training to isolate the effects of the software itself. The maturation threat, over time, employees naturally become more efficient in their jobs, right? Which could affect report accuracy. Would you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Agree. Okay. How would you solve the maturation or maturation threat? One is randomly, if you're the researcher, you're going to randomly assign employees to treatment and control groups, and which can help balance the effects of the maturation. And the other threat is the testing threat. Repeated measurement of financial reports may lead to improve performance solely due to practice. Okay? Repeated measurement of financial reports may lead to improved performance solely due to practice. To resolve the testing threat, What a researcher might do is to implement a counterbalancing design or use a control group to account for the testing effect. There are some concerns about validity, okay? Validity concerns in research revolves around whether the study accurately measures or assesses what it intends to measure. So to ensure validity, it is essential. It is very important to producing trustworthy and meaningful research results. Here are some of the concerns of validity in research. One is bias. Now, bias is a significant concern in conducting research because it can distort the validity and reliability of study findings, leading to inaccurate or misleading results. Bias can affect various aspects of research, from the selection of the research topic and design of experiments to the collection and interpretation of data. Bias can also lead to unethical concerns or practices in research, such as the researcher cherry picking data or selectively reporting findings that support a specific hypothesis or agenda. Now, this can harm the integrity of the research process. Do you think it would be unethical for a researcher to interview relatives and friends? For their research? Would that be an unethical practice? Not everyone answer at the same time. Anyone? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm just processing.
Okay. Will it be unethical for a researcher who's conducting a research to interview relatives and friends?
Well, absolutely.
Absolutely. Anyone else? You can voice your comments in the chat if you want to. I would say it could go either way. Why is that? If the researcher takes him or herself out of the, when I say take him or herself out of the out of the participation, out of the area where they're actually conducting the interview. If they have a set of questions and they ask the questions verbatim, the conversation is recorded. That way they can take themselves. It's not going to be biased. But if the researcher is transposing or rephrasing the questions, then that can be biased. Another example is the researcher has an idea as to how the participant or the interviewee will respond to these questions. So cherry picking, that would cause bias. Or if the researcher has a partner who's actually going to ask these questions, because you can have, not you as a student in Capstone, but you do have some researchers that have a team, or they may have an additional researcher working together on a research. Okay, so that relative or friend, the second researcher could ask those questions. Okay. Another validity concern is testing. Testing for validity is crucial. It's a crucial concern in research because it ensures that the measurements and assessments used in a study accurately and meaningfully represent the concepts or constructs of interest. And of course, errors. Now, errors in research can have various consequences depending on the nature and the magnitude of the errors. Now, research errors can occur at different stages of the research process, including the study design, the research design, data collection, data analysis, and interpretation of results. This next slide lists some of the theories tested in accounting. Now, the authors of the textbook looked at developments in economics. You probably have seen some in finance, sociology, psychology, organizational behavior, for sources of testable theory that may be applied in accounting environment. So this list that you see here are not comprehensive, but illustrative of the potential sources in other disciplines. Okay. Here's another one, institution theory in economic and finance. Institutional theory identifies the routine nature of business practices, including accounting methods, as being the tacit knowledge that underpins a firm's acknowledged know-how. Psychology and sociology. These are just a few, some of the different theories in these disciplines. Self-perception theory. Sociology, you have the social learning theory, the stakeholder theory, conflict theory. Organizational behavior. You can use theories in accounting, in your accounting research, based on these theories. You know? Now, theoretical framework are developed around the behavior of employees and the organization. Now, those theories are heavily influenced by the psychology discipline, while those at the group and organization level are influenced by sociology and social psychology. All have been highly influential in the development of accounting research. I'm just going to go over a few of them. The attribution theory is concerned with how ordinary people examine the causes of behavior and events. For example, if someone is angry and they're angry because they are bad-tempered or because something bad happened. Is someone angry because they are bad-tempered or because something bad happened? So in that example, you would be able to explain the cause of the behavior, right? Cognitive dissonance theory. It postulates that an underlying psychological tension is created when an individual's behavior is inconsistent with his or her thoughts and beliefs. Now, this underlying tension then motivates an individual to make an attitude change that would produce consistency between thoughts and behaviors. You have expectancy theory, structurization theory, adaptive structuration theory, institution theory, and diffusion theory. These are just a few of them, okay? These are just a few of the theory. But again, if you're going to conduct your research in Capstone, and when you start reading, when you first of all have your topic in mind, and you doing some research, you're looking for research that's, centers around your topic, you'll see that some of the research articles that you browse through at the beginning will be based on one or two theory. Here's one that is very common. It's called the grounded theory. It evolves from the empirical data rather than being developed and imposed in advance of data collection. Okay, basically what it is, ground theory evolves mostly in qualitative. You will find ground theory research in qualitative research. Basically what it does is that it sets out to discover or construct theory from data systematically obtained and analyzing using comparative analysis. So the primary objective of a grounded theory then is to expand upon an explanation or a phenomenon by identifying the key elements of that phenomenon and then categorizing the relationships of those elements to the context and process of the experiment. Again, a grounded theory is a qualitative research methodology, okay? It is often used to develop theories or concepts that are grounded in the data rather than being based on a preconceived hypothesis. Now, while grounded theory is more commonly associated with social science, it can be applied in accounting research. An example of an accounting research is this question, research question that you see here. How do organizations respond to changes in accounting regulations that significantly impact financial reporting practices? How do organizations respond to changes in accounting regulations that significantly impact financial reporting practices? So what the researcher would do is first they will start by collecting data through interviews, surveys, or document analysis from a sample of organizations that have experienced significant changes in accounting regulations. That will be their first step. Literature review. Searching the literature. So in conducting your research, you would have to complete a literature review. But what is a literature review? A literature review in research is a critical and comprehensive analysis of existing scholarly literature, research studies, and publications relevant to your specific research topic or question. So the literature review serves several important purposes within the research process. It will actually ask these questions. What has been done already? These are the questions that you yourself will be asking. What has been done already? What has not been done? Or what has not been done very well? Okay? So your literature review will tell you the degree to which the idea you have identified has already been researched. It might give you ideas as to how to proceed in designing your own study so that you can obtain an answer to your research question. It can also point you out methods, research methodology problems specific to your research questions. Okay. It can also identify whether special groups or special pieces of equipment are needed. And searching the literature will also provide needed information for preparing your research report or thesis. A literature review helps researchers gain a thorough understanding of the current state of knowledge and research related to their chosen topic. It also provides an overview of what has been studied, what gaps exist in the literature, and what questions or issues remain unexplored. So in every research, there should be those information that I just mentioned. There should be a gap. If you're reading a research article or a journal report, 9 times out of 10, at the very end of the research, or in the conclusion, the researcher will present that there is a gap in their research. Okay? Nine times out of 10, there's usually a gap, and they'll always mention it. And sometimes those gaps that they mention could be a how would I say it? It could be a place where you can start to conduct your research. They will actually present you, they will present the readers with what that gap is. and say that you're interested in that research, you might want to solve that issue. Okay? For example, if you were conducting a research on female CEOs or owners of companies or something like that. Okay? And your research involved reaching out to women in certain areas of the industry, different industries. Say you wanted to conduct research on female executives or CEOs of companies located in the West. Okay, and you might want to compare their compensation to what men receive in the West Coast. Okay, that gap could be that you have more people, you have more women in the West as compared to the East or the South or the North. You see what I'm saying? That could be a gap right there. In other words, your findings is based on what it is in the West, whereas it could be totally different from the female executives living in the East, the North, or the South. Okay? So researchers use literature reviews to identify key concepts, theories, and models relevant to their research topic. Now, this helps establish the theoretical framework for your own study. So you have your literature review, you're going to identify your question, review discipline styles, search the literature, you manage your references, you read critically, you synthesize, and then you write. But during that process, you're rethinking, you're refining, and you're reworking your review in an interactive process. Okay? So here we are. We discussed what is a theory. We said that a theory is an idea. It helps to explain how and why a phenomenon operates as it does. We discussed hypotheses. We said a hypothesis is the prediction or a tentative answer to a research question. We discussed concepts. We talked about constructs, variables, and validity. Okay, we said that the concepts are abstract notions that are not readily observable or quantifiable. We said that a construct refers to an abstract or theoretical concept or idea that is not directly observable, but is used to explain or represent certain phenomena, behaviors, or characteristics. We discussed variables. We went through what's the difference between a dependent and an independent variables. We discussed reliability, how your research has to be reliable. Okay? And we discussed validity. The validity in research refers to the extent to which a study or a research instrument accurately measures or assesses what it is intended to measure. And that was chapter 3. I will have chapter 4 uploaded next week. Okay? All right. So does anyone have any questions or comments?
I had some questions, but they were related. They were related to something else other than research methods and accounting.
Do you want to ask now?
Yeah, it was regarding the internship and what would qualify. I reached out to Tamara, and it was regarding, like, basically it was what would be consistent of advanced accounting um classes. I have a list of items, but I was just trying to see, like, get your opinion on some of them that I do at my current position to see if they would qualify as advanced accounting.
Qualify as advanced accounting as it relate to capstone, or I'm not sure of your question.
So for the internship for your job or your internship to qualify, you need to be either an auditing, business taxation, or advanced accounting. So there's just some stuff that I have available to me at work, and I kind of wanted to see to get your opinion on it to see if it would qualify as advanced accounting or just regular accounting duties.
Oh, okay.
That's more of a personal question, I guess.
Okay. If I were you, I would have you reach out to Tamara.
I have.
Okay, what did she say?
She's the one who kind of gave me the list of things, and she gave me some class descriptions of stuff, and basically said for it to qualify, it has to fall within these boundaries. But there was some stuff that wasn't necessarily on the list, but I was thinking we're close enough, and I wanted to see if it would still fall in the range of advanced accounting.
Okay. It would be best for you. She didn't tell you to reach out to Donald Rowe, who is the program
I'm
chair.
supposed to give her a detailed description of, like, all the job activities, and then she gives that to Donald, and then he reaches back out to me, I guess.
Okay, okay. Yes, because he has to make that decision, because even if I look at it and, you know,
Yeah. Okay.
I can't make that call.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. But I can say that it has worked in the past. Some students were able, they work for an accounting firm, and they were able to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
If we don't get into the internship this quarter, can we take it next quarter or any other quarters after that?
Oh, the internship will, yes, definitely.
Okay, so
It will start next quarter.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're lucky, whereas you can start now, in the position.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I know some students they accepted the position, but yet the quarter didn't start until after they were in the position. Because you have to accumulate a certain number of hours, working hours. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you said that if we get into the internship now, then we don't have to do the research proposal. Is that what it was?
If it's approved by Donald Rowe, you don't have to do it. No, I wouldn't. No, if Donald gives his approval on your internship, there's no need for you to. I wouldn't want you to start writing a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do that to you. I didn't do it to my other students, and I wouldn't do it to my students in this class and future students. So if your internship is approved, then you're exempt from writing a proposal, a research proposal. So why would you write it if you're not going to do capstone? You're not going to write a thesis. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that to you. Any other questions? But again, like I said, you don't want to wait too long. You want to, get started as soon as possible. And getting it approved, have Donald to look over it to see if it qualifies for EXPRL 490, which is you know, the internship. Because it relieves you from the stress of knowing that you have to complete a proposal. Any other questions? I don't know why my video just stops automatically. I think I need a new camera. But anyway, does anyone else have any questions? I'm gonna stop the recording.